Goal Getting Podcast, episode 26.
You know, I always say that I don't have failures because I never view them that way. I have learning experiences, and the most painful learning experience I've ever had is waiting and procrastination. There's a lot of things that I should have done decades earlier, but I was too scared. There was that voice in my ear.
Hello, goal getters. Welcome to Goal Getting Podcast, another show today with a phenomenal guest. With us today, Mr. Tom Schwab. Tom is the owner of TM Schwab, and he's an online business accelerator. Tom is a good friend of mine. Also, we've gotten to know each other as part of a member of a mastermind group that we belong to. Tom's a digital marketing engineer, he's always a Navy veteran and has served our country in the United States very well, and we appreciate your service, Tom. And today we're going to be talking about Tom's passion of, using podcasts to help grow your business. And Tom's very active in inbound marketing. Tom is known for knowing how to build a business online with inbound strategy. And he's led the growth of Goodbye Crutches, a direct-to-patient private pay e-commerce business, from a regional player to a national leader in under just 3 years. He's also the leader of HubSpot's e-commerce user group, published in the leading industry blogs. He's featured guests on TV, radio, webinars, and podcasts, and he's also been featured in HubSpot's e-commerce case study. Tom is wonderful to talk with, and I'm going to let Tom introduce himself. Tom, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, and where you're from.
Well, thank you, Tony. And I guess the thing that I would add to that is that I'm a friend of Tony's, and it was so great there at Podcast Movement a couple of weeks ago to get to meet you in life. I know we had chatted back and forth online, and while that's great, there's no substitute for actually getting to know somebody and having a cup of coffee with them. My background only makes sense looking in the rearview mirror. As you said, my first job out of college was running nuclear reactors, and it taught me a lot of things. And I went from there when I left the military to a Fortune 500 company in the sales and the marketing department. And the thing that really always frustrated me was that in sales and marketing, and a lot of times in business, people would just say, they'd admit, 50% of the effort that we're doing is wasted. We just never know what that is. And it's like, how can you get to your goal if half the things you're doing are moving you away from it? So that frustrated me. And then when I started my own business, I saw that the tools now existed so that we could see what people were telling us. We could get that feedback from experts, and experts weren't a consultant or a guru. Experts were really the people that we were interacting with us, our customers, our prospects, and they'd tell us all the time, what they love and what they loathe. And what you had to do to get to your goal was do more of what your experts told you they loved and less of what they told you they loathed. And so with that, I always look back and say, I've done two things in my life. I've run a nuclear reactor and I've run a small business. Only one of them came with an instruction manual, and looking back at it, it was a whole lot easier. So that's what I try to do with small business owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. Work with them to come up with a plan so that they can harness the power of the internet and accelerate the growth of their business and achieve their goals and their dreams much, much quicker.
Excellent. Now, that I think relates to your inbound marketing. And I think a lot of people hear the term inbound marketing in a business. And if there are people out there, we have a lot of listeners that are starting their own business or running a business and have goals to improve their business and don't really understand what inbound marketing is. But it is the future for, growing businesses today with the internet. And can you expound on and kind of describe exactly what inbound marketing is?
Very much so, Tony. And that's a great question, because I always say inbound marketing is a strategy, and it's the future, but it's also what our grandparents were using. And the easiest way to define that is sometimes to define what it isn't. So we all know what marketing is that we hate. That's the commercial that interrupts our favorite show. That's the billboard that is nothing but an eyesore on our way to work. It's interruption marketing. It can even be that telephone call that interrupts you out of the blue. It can be a spammy email. So traditional outbound marketing is all about, I've got a product to sell to you. It's all about using the customer to make a sale. Now you flip that over, and inbound marketing is also known as permission-based marketing. And it's the realization that people come to you because they have a need, a question. And when they come, if you're the one that answers that question and is helpful and helps educate them, that you'll gain trust, you'll gain authority, you'll gain thought leadership. The truth is that nobody wants to be sold anything, but everybody wants to buy. And those people that can help them buy with producing great content, and that could be blogs, frequently asked questions, videos, even what we're doing right here is great content because it answers people's questions. How can I achieve my goals? And so with that, the leaders in the future are going to be those people that forget trying to trick the consumer and really try helping them and serving them. And if you look at it, this is the way that our great-grandparents and our grandparents built their business. They weren't focused on chasing a transaction. They were focused on serving a customer. And I think the only difference between the great businesses of 100 years ago and the great businesses of today are the tools we have and the size of our markets. And it's just amazing that with all this technology that we have, that we can serve our customers so much better, so much more efficiently. They can tell us what they like and what they don't like. Technology should never replace us, but enhance us. And I'm more excited about business today than I've ever been in my life.
Well, that's great. And I think what you've alluded to or talked directly to is that you really have to provide value to people. And that's the thing that comes first is, in my opinion, is providing that value and not being that person who just, that's one of the things I hate on, products like LinkedIn or even going to networking meetings. You walk in, you introduce yourself, and then somebody goes, oh, by the way, I do this, I sell this, can I sell you something? Not in those words, but pretty much the same thing. It's just a forceful kind of, like you said, an interruption kind of thing. Here you are trying to make relationships with people, and somebody wants to sell you something immediately. So I think you've got it nailed on the head. It really is, providing value to people first, because that's what we're looking for, right?
Right. Gary Vaynerchuk has a book, and it's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And I look at that as saying it's, serve, 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 ask. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you focus on the transaction, it's never been easier to sell something online today, but it's never been harder to make a profit and, or to build a business. So if you just want a transaction, that's easy, but there's no value in that for either person. So really you have to focus on how can I build a business, build a brand, build a relationship. Starbucks, I think their average transaction is like $4, but the lifetime value of a customer is in the neighborhood of $30,000. So that's why they're investing in, the fireplace, the nice chairs, the different places to go. They don't want to sell you a $4 cup of coffee. They want to have a relationship with you for years and years.
Exactly. And that's, what you have to have in business. You have to keep your customer coming back. Obviously, you want that to happen because you don't want to drive them off. You don't want them just to come in for a quick coffee, like you said. And I think they've gone up from $4 actually, but and I think I'm one of those $30,000 lifetime customers, closer to a month. But you want to go to those places that you feel comfortable, that you built a relationship, and that you feel like you're part of that. I was at a restaurant yesterday, and the waiter came up. He took my wife and I name, and continued to call us by our name the entire time he was serving us. He'd check in on us. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Tony. How are you? Anything I can get for you? And it was just that building that relationship while we were there. So we're definitely going back to that restaurant. So that is a very big key. So your business is about how to instruct other businesses to utilize that type of attitude, that type of philosophy and those techniques, right?
Very much so. And, it's like Zig Ziglar said, if you want to reach all your goals, help other people attain theirs. And yours will come with that. So we really try showing small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, how they can use these tools of the internet. And one of the things that amazes me so much is how easy it is to connect with your ideal customers right now. Mm-hmm. And I always say that the customers are the only ones that can give you feedback on how you're doing, how you're moving forward towards your goals, because they'll tell you what they love and what they loathe. So if you put an offer out there that everybody takes, okay, they just told you, I love this. If you put a web page up and everybody bounces off of it, and which is very easy to see from the analytics, they just told you, I loathe this. This confuses me somehow. So there's never been a better time in life in order to get feedback on how you're doing. And one of the ways that we found that's the easiest way to connect with your ideal customer is just talking with them. Marketing is all about starting a conversation. And right now, you can do that through videos, blogs, things like that. But podcasts seem to be the ones are where people are listening, connecting, and they'll either resonate with your message and want to connect with you, or they won't, and that's fine, because really you want to attract your ideal customer, not just the masses.
Right. And podcasting is, I think, a way to do that. So you're talking to people now about using podcasting, being a guest on podcasts and talking to the listeners and, reaching your dream customers. So, what's the best way to do that, to get on podcast and to talk with people? If anybody's listening here today wants to, find out more about that particular medium, what's your recommendations and tips on that?
Yeah, Tony, what I got from Podcast Movement is anybody that says doing your own podcast is easy has either never done it or has never done it well. And so if you don't want to start your own podcast, a great way to do it is just to be on other people's podcasts. They're always looking for guests and great content. And we've worked with quite a few customers on this, and we found a six-step process that really works. And just like any process, you've got to go through all steps to get the results that you want, the goals achieved. So with that, the first thing you have to do is define, who is it that I want to talk to? So you don't need to talk to everybody in the world, just the people that you can really serve well. And a lot of times this is called your avatar or your ideal buyer persona. And it's the questions of who they are from the demographics. And that's the information that the Census Bureau knows about us, the age, the education, where they live, their income level. But even more importantly is the psychographics of who are these people? How do they make decisions? Who influences them? What are their aspirations? What are their fears? So that you can get a good sense of, hey, this is the person that I could serve best. And if you know that, then you can start looking for podcasts that way. Second step is really to look in the mirror and say, what do I have to offer these people? And everybody is an expert in something. And if you look at the legal definition of an expert, it's really just someone who knows more by their background, experience, or education than the average person. So if you're doing a job, you're an expert in that because you're doing that day in and day out. If you're talking about yourself, you're the definitive expert on that. So just being able to share that. So after you've looked at, who you want to talk to and why you're an expert, then the next step is approaching podcast hosts. And if you listen to podcasts already, you can go ahead and reach out to hosts that you already have a relationship with because you've listened to them. And you don't have to be, once again, on 100 podcasts. Pick 5 that you think that I've got a great story to tell them, and approach those podcast hosts. Step 4 is really being a professional interviewer, and doing it with the same level of professionalism that the host is doing. They're opening up their audience to you. So you want to make sure that you add value. So step 4 is getting on the podcast. And here you want to be very professional in your appearance. So you want to make sure that you make the host look good. You want to make sure that you're giving good value and good content and making the best use of the people's time. You want to not be pitching anything, but educating. Now, step 5 is really where it gets into inbound marketing. You need to give something to the listeners to take them from listeners to leads. You must give them something that say, hey, this is why I want to go ahead and find out more about this person. And that could be bringing them back to your website. I mean, I've got an infographic that talks about these 6 steps. There's a webinar that we do each week on these 6 steps. So something that for people that could say, hey, that's the reason I want to go back to the website. And then finally, the final step is how do you work leads into customers? And really, that's an inbound marketing thing, and that's really nurturing them with emails and communications, being helpful, doing that, what we talked about, serve. And then when you offer a product up, it's not even selling, it's more of the introducing a product that could help them. And one of the great things about this entire process is that everything can be outsourced but the interview. So if you've got a virtual assistant, there's agencies that you can hire to get you onto podcasts so that you think of yourself as just the talent. All you have to do is show up, do the interview, and talk to your ideal customers.
Excellent, Tom. Those are some fantastic tips. And you do have a webinar I saw also on your website to go through to talk about these types of techniques and tips that you're offering, correct?
Correct. And I love audio, and it's a great medium to tell stories and to connect. But there are certain times where you just like to show a slide or show them examples of exactly how it's done. And that's what we do in the webinar. It's just a 30-minute webinar where we go through all 6 steps so people can understand them much better.
Excellent. Yeah, those are good. And this is, I love webinars as well. I attend probably one a week to learn new things about my business and things I want to learn, and to also meet and see how other people work. So it's a good medium as well. Again, this technology today is just amazing. We were talking earlier before the show about how, things have just changed so much in the market today for everything. And that with the technologies, we don't know where we're going to be in 3 to 5 years. Our jobs may be completely different at that point. So, there's so many great things that we can do to reach our customers and help them and provide value to them, such as webinars, podcasts, and things like that. So,
yeah, and while the strategy doesn't change, the strategy is always how can we serve customers to build that relationship, to help them achieve their goals so that we achieve our goals. What does change is the tactics with that, and the tactics are the tools we use. So to always be looking at a tool and saying, hey, could I test this out with my audience to see if it works for them? All the technology and the tools we have should never replace us, but enhance us and enhance our ability to make relationships.
Exactly. And Tom, those are some great tips, and I appreciate you sharing those with us, being open like that to share your techniques with people that you really don't know, but again, you're providing value to people, and that is the key to, growing your business. So I appreciate you sharing that.
If they're friends of Tony, I share freely with them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Same here. Again, that's friendship and relationships are key in building a business. We've learned that. We talked recently. This has been one of our mastermind group that we're in. This has been the theme for the last month, I believe, is relationships and building that. And that is key. That and having a mastermind group is also key. Being involved with mentors and masterminds helps out, I think, a lot. So I would certainly encourage people, if they're not in a group or do not have a mentor, to find one. The questions I have for you, Tom, today we're going to go into our Q&A round here to talk about some questions, that you might hear from people when they're trying to achieve and get the goals that they set. And I always talk about habits, and habits being, either positive or negative can affect our goals and how we achieve those. Do you have any success habits that you use to keep you going and to help you in your road to success?
I would have to say my first one just comes from the military, and just getting up early in the day and starting on purpose with a plan. From that standpoint, you can make the day look as much as possible what you want, as opposed to just starting the day late and being reactionary to everybody else. So I sort of start with the end in mind, and I start early.
Excellent. Yes, I do that myself, and I think that's wonderful, because you have to, and you point out here, starting your day on purpose, not just getting out and doing things and being reactionary. So that's a very big key, I think. Thank you. The other question I have is, what is the quote that hangs on your wall? Do you have a quote that you use that, motivates you or keeps you inspired and to keep you going?
Very much so. And it's from a gentleman by the name of Derek Sivers. He wrote a book, Anything You Want. Seth Godin published it for him. And he was the founder of CD Baby. And nobody remembers that, but it was the precursor to iTunes. And the quote is, "What's ordinary to you is amazing to others." And I think we always have to remember that we can learn from others and we can also teach others. And so that we need to be free with our knowledge and then also ask other people.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good quote. Thank you. I do quote of the day on Goal Getting podcast, and I may use that from you. I'll give you credit for that one because I like that. That's a good quote. Now, Tom, you mentioned his book, and a lot of us read books, frequently to get ideas and to learn and things like that. But do you have a book you would recommend to our listeners that are trying to achieve their goals that could help them in that area?
I would say for goal getting, one of the things that a book has been influential in my life is a book called Essentialism. And it really is how you can focus on the important parts and cut out the trivial things that interrupt you. And I think that's the same way when we communicate with our customers. There's important things that we can communicate with them and cut out the trivial. And the wonderful thing is they'll always tell us what's trivial by the feedback they give on us.
Thank you, Tom. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsor, Audible.com. Goal Getters, Tom has recommended a great book, Essentialism, and that book and many others are available on Audible.com. For you, the listeners of Goal Getting Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to goalgettingbook.com. Again, that's goalgettingbook.com for your free audiobook. Thank you, and let's get back to the show. Excellent. Okay, cool. That's been one that was recommended in our mastermind group as well. I still have not had an opportunity to read that, so it is on my list to do that, so I'll have to pick that up. Everybody keeps talking about that and getting down to what's really important in your life and concentrating on those items. So very good. Now, we're getting close to the year. I typically ask people, what are your top 3 goals you have this year? And you probably have achieved a few of those. So what is your main goal that you've got for the remaining part of the year that you're working on? And how can we help you achieve that?
Yeah, there's, I always have personal goals, professional goals, and spiritual goals. And I track those as we go through there. I'm making great progress in that. And one of the goals that I'm most excited about now is to train 500 people on how to be a podcast guest, because I think it's so powerful in helping people get their message out there. So with that, that's why I'm doing the webinars, different seminars, writing blogs on it. And one of the things that has been most powerful to me is that I thought I was done with the course and the content probably about in the May timeframe. And then I opened it up to different people, friends and different contacts. And it was so great because they kept asking questions. They said, well, what about this? Could you add this to it? Could you add this to it? I would love this resource. And it's just gotten so much better. And it's that community coming together to all learn together. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about. And once again, if anybody is interested, you can go to tmschwab.com and all the resources are there. And we walk through them once a week also on a topic on how to do that in a webinar.
Excellent. And folks, we'll have the links to the Tom's website, tmschwab.com, where you can pick this up on our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com/Tom, and you'll be able to go out there and just click a link and go to that. So that'll be very helpful. So thank you very much for that, Tom. The other thing that I would like to ask is, what is your biggest failure you've had in life, and what is the biggest lessons you've learned from it?
I always say that I don't have failures because I never view them that way. I have learning experiences, And the most painful learning experience I've ever had is waiting and procrastination. There's a lot of things that I should have done decades earlier, but I was too scared. There was that voice in my ear that was saying, now is not the right time. You're not old enough. You're not smart enough. And if you give it 10 years, it'll start changing it and saying you're too old. And that voice, that doubt, the imposter syndrome, whatever it is, it's not your friend. And it's not the same thing your friends are telling you. It's not the same thing your loved ones are telling you. So I don't know why we listen to it that much, but that would be the thing. My biggest failure is listening to my fears as opposed to being excited about the possibilities.
Great. That I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of people have that fear, that imposter syndrome, and we have to kick them out of the house and go on with our life and listen to ourselves and the advisors and the trusted experts that we have around us. So, and that's not one of them, as you say. He's not your friend, so let's kick him out of the house and get busy. So that's great. Again, and you made a good point about that. It's not necessarily a failure; it's a learning experience, and we shouldn't fear that failure. We just need to think of those as learning experiences. So you brought up two great points there. So thank you, Tom. Now, Tom, how do people get to be in touch with you and find out more about what you do and more about inbound marketing? Because, again, that is the future of growing your business and things that people need to, if you're looking to grow a business and to build a business, inbound marketing and understanding, providing value. And, what Tom has spoken about today is very key. So how can they get in touch with you?
Sure, Tony. The best place to get in touch with me is either through LinkedIn or through my website, which is tmschwab.com. In fact, I put a special page together for anybody that listens to this podcast. If you just go to tmschwab.com/goal, you'll see everything Tony and I talked about here. So whether or not you're listening to this the day that it releases, or if you're listening to it weeks or months or years later, all those resources will be there. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook, but I always say if you connect with me on Facebook, I love it, but you're going to see pictures of my family and the cutest granddaughter in the world.
Sometimes we need that just to see the joy that other people have with their grandkids and their children. That, resonates with a lot of us. So I think that's not a bad thing. But if we want to talk to you about business, let's go to LinkedIn, correct?
Correct.
All right. So we'll put those on our show notes page, folks, so you can get those very quickly. And Tom, thank you for putting together that landing page or website for us so that we can go there after the show anytime and pick up the information that we've spoken about. So again, that's tmschwab.com/goal.
That's correct.
Great. Thank you very much. And we want to respect your times, and we're running out of it. And I know we're both busy this morning and got a lot of things to go, but we do appreciate you being on the show and sharing this information with the listeners and our goal getter nation so that they can understand how to use inbound marketing and how to use podcast as a way to grow their business. And I think, as a podcaster, I would certainly welcome people to be on my show. And the benefit of me having guests on my show is I can share that information and, again, provide value to my listeners that they might not be able to get just from me. So that's one of the reasons why I started interviewing people, is so that I can share information and provide value to my listeners. And we think that you did a great job with that today, Tom, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Tony.
I got one last thing as we end the day. Today is our parting words of wisdom. So what is the best advice that you can give to our listeners that are trying to achieve their goals?
Don't die not knowing.
Don't die not knowing.
It came from my college roommate who now runs the test pilot school for the Navy. And that's what he always said. And he didn't want to die not knowing if he could do something, not knowing if an opportunity would work out. So from that standpoint, whatever your goal is, don't die not knowing whether or not you could have accomplished it. If you go for it and get it, that's great. But even if you shoot for the stars and only hit the moon, you're going to be able to know what you could do and where you could go. And so don't die not knowing all you could do.
Oh, that's profound. Actually, it just resonates, sent chills up me because that's true. Gosh, that's don't die not knowing. I haven't heard it put that way, but that is very, very profound way to put it. So that really resonates a lot to me and hopefully to our listeners. But that's key. Don't die not knowing. So, Tom, thank you so much. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship, and I'm looking forward to continuing that. We have a great time, in our community mastermind group, and, just getting together at Podcast Movement. I'm hoping to run into you at another conference sometime in the future, and definitely next year at Podcast Movement in Chicago. So it's close to your home, and I love Chicago. So folks, if you're listening and you want to get into podcasting, or if you want to do what Tom is doing, and talking about being on podcasts, go to Podcast Movement, because there are thousands of podcasters that you can talk with and find people, as Tom talked about, that have your dream customer that you can go get on their show and build a relationship with them at these events. It's key, I think, in growing your business. And that's our goal here, is to help you get the goals you set. So, Tom, thank you so much. And if there's anything that we or I can do for you, at the Goal Getter Nation, please let us know and keep in touch. And we'll have any comments that folks may have on our comment section on our show notes. I'll forward those to you and let you know so you can get back and respond to them.
I'd be thrilled too, Tony. Thank you very much, and I look forward to staying in contact with you and also anybody in your community. I really mean it when I say what's ordinary to you is amazing to me.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom, and have a wonderful day. Hey, Goal Getters. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Tom Schwab. Before you leave, let me remind you where to find our show notes page for this episode. Go to goalgettingpodcast.com/Tom, T-O-M. That's goalgettingpodcast.com/Tom. I also want to let you know that I put together another podcast upgrade for you for this episode. I've put all of Tom's info and the links to his page he shared with us that, by the way, has several key takeaways for you, including a great infographic about the Net Promoter Score. To get the podcast upgrade, you can go to goalgettingpodcast.com/upgrade or go to the show notes and click the link to the upgrade. I also want to let you know that we are now on the Jabbercast app. You can download the app on our show notes page. Jabbercast is the best listening experience for podcasts. It's a new app. Download it and check it out, and let me know what you think about it. Y'all go out and make today a great day.